This is a video response to a comment from Aniceto Maldonado. So, Mr. Maldonado says in his comment, I'm quoting him, speaking of ethical vegan, do you want your leather wallet back? The problem most vegans face is keeping it to themselves. Every vegan I have ever met has this air of arrogance and feels like they are the spokesperson for everyone else to do as you say. Everyone must become vegan because you say so. To sit there and say nobody else is spiritual or empathetic because they are not vegan, they don't get it, is very arrogant and dogmatic thinking coming from someone who rejects reality. Vegans never considered how their lifestyle impacts the planet through the fossil fuels used to deliver those vegan products to the store, because you won't grow your own food and sustain yourself to better protect the environment your animals live in. Stop laying the guilt trip on everyone else and own up to what you're responsible for and grow your own food. Stop wasting gas that pollutes the environment your animals live in. Have you ever considered the energy consumed by an entity like YouTube burns in energy consumption just to keep the servers you use up and running 24 hours a day, ready for instant use demand? How much fossil fuel consumption is used? Have you ever factored that into your Save the Animals campaign? Take it from somebody who has met you in real life. Your problem is that mouth of yours. To use your own analogy, nobody wants to hang out with a preacher who won't stop preaching their rhetoric to people who didn't ask for it. That's why you have no friends, because you can't shut up. I'll leave out the phone calls you've made to have somebody's dogs taken, but I will include your flea-infested cats that have died because of your intentional neglect. You want people to stay out of your personal affairs. You should try to practice as you preach and stay out of theirs. Okay, well, I used to have a leather wallet, and I went to the trouble of buying one made out of fake leather that I've had for years now. Maybe my grandma gave me a wallet when I was 24, that was leather. And a belt, I had a leather belt because I couldn't find one that was fabric that fitted me well. So I had one, and I finally bought one that's made out of cactus, which I like, and it's a green belt. It's really nice. As far as like preaching to people on the vegan diet, I do that here on YouTube. Because you could come and go, you could watch my videos. If you don't want to watch my videos, you don't have to watch my videos. I started to make the choice in my own lifestyle to be more plant-based when I was like 25 or 26 years old. I went to a PETA meeting at a college and learned a little bit more about animal agriculture. And I read part of that book by Upton Sinclair called The Jungle, which is, I think, written back in the 30s or the 40s, which is about the livestock industry and what happens, how cows get processed into meat and how it's dirty, and this was before USDA. But there was a lot of issues then before in my life about animals. I've had pets since I was a kid, so I've been around a lot of different kinds of animals, and I don't preach to people. I try to just share what I know, and I try to emphasize that animals have feelings, I mean, maybe I have a mental health problem. Maybe my problem is that I believe the animals, like farm animals, have consciousness. Like I think, oh, they're like me. I think an animal like a farm animal is like me. It's like small. It's trapped. It's forced into a situation or circumstances that it's suffering. It doesn't have any power over its situation. It can't choose to leave. It's confinement, and it ends in its own tragic death. And it's just people, and it's used as food. So and then I talk a lot about you know diet in ancient peoples and ancient cultures, where some cultures practiced a plant-based diet because they were more in a tropical forested area where there was more immediately available fruits, coconuts, kinds of foods that you could eat where you could survive on without having to raise animals or even hunt animals regularly. And that was probably in places in India and places in Thailand and that areas of the world where it was tropical more. Whereas, if your ancestry is from the north, you had the people in your family, your ancestors, they had to survive by hunting, and they needed fire. Fire was part of of staying warm and cooking and that and getting that for. So and then I started really being vegan mostly when I was about 41. Well, I was like. It was 2011. My dad, he died of brain cancer, and at the time I was being Buddhist. Well, I was studying Buddhism on and off. I studied that, and I like the idea that, well, you're not causing any harm. You're trying to live and create the least amount of harm that you can while you're alive. And for me, adopting more of a plant-based diet, and as time goes on, because of my situation where I've lived, it's been easier because of the availability of foods, different kinds of foods, variety of foods in the grocery stores and that. But I've been able to pretty much maintain pretty much almost vegan. I can't say I'm 100% vegan. I mean, of course, you got like eggs and donuts and that, and or there's milk and chocolate or whatever you eat, a chocolate, so you have to try, you have to, well, for me, I try as best I can. And the thing with my cats is that all the other times I've had cats, I've been able to get those drops, right? And you put it on the cat, and then the fleas go away because they have the topical medication. It works. And this time, I tried 2 different brands, and both of them worked for a week or two, and then they fail. Well, the instructions on the medication is you wait a month. Well, during that month I was waiting, the flea problem, they got worse and worse and worse, and the cats, they just got sick really suddenly. It was within a matter of like maybe 4 or 5 days. The cats went from being healthy and to just not wanting to drink, and then they stopped eating and then stopped drinking within a few days. So I would have gotten them to the vet sooner had I known that they weren't gonna come out of that. They were old too. They were older than, I think they were 14-year-old cats. So I didn't think of maybe taking them to the vet that would do any good for them. And plus, I had previously spent over $1,000 on the Basset Hound, taking the Basset Hound to the vet, and then having the Basset Hound examined, x-rayed, given medication, and other types of examinations that they were done to the dog, and the dog failed, and the dog was put down. We had to have the dog put down. So that was not, I kept my end of the bargain. I said, if my neighbor needed help with her pets, I would be there to help her out. But as far as like bathing and giving the dogs grooming and bathing, I didn't say that. See, I always had dogs myself, and we always bathed them. and not groom them, not taking them somewhere else to groom. But nails is something different. Nails is something you got to be really careful about that, because there's a cuticle, there's their nerves and their blood vessels in the end of the nail, so you got to be really. So I admit that I did take the dogs and paid for them to have work done at the vet. Yeah, as far as trying to grow my own food, I have tried to grow my own food on where I'm living at, and I planted 2 cherry trees, 2 pear trees that are dying, 3 apple trees, and apples sometimes get worms in them and they don't grow right. And I've done other container gardening, but gardening takes a lot of work. You got to prepare the soil, you got to have the containers, and you got to put the soil in the containers and put the seeds, starter seeds, or get starters, and water them regularly. If you leave town, of course, your garden's gonna fail if you don't have somebody to water your garden. So it's always something you got to be on top of, and it's very time consuming, and it takes a lot of area. You got to have the right space around your house to garden, and just getting enough food. I mean, you're gonna have to grow a lot to feed yourself. And I've done that a few years. When my wife was well, I was able to do that around my house. I was able to do a lot of container gardening. I had a good year with tomatoes and cucumbers one year, and some beans and strawberries. But as far as other gardening, growing my own food, I grow potatoes, but I don't grow. It's just been a hard year for me. I was more enthusiastic about that when my wife was alive. She encouraged me a lot to do gardening when she was around. And as far as like turning someone in to somebody's turning you in to somebody for your dogs, or I've never called anybody, as far as I've never called any authorities or anyone about anyone else's yard or anyone else's pets. So I don't know where you're coming off saying that I'm the one that's calling the authorities on pets or the condition of your yard. I have my own problems. I would never do that. My house, my home, and my yard, I wouldn't want anyone to call on me, so I wouldn't call on anyone else. It's stupid. And I don't get in anyone's face. Sometimes when I was in a relationship, I was intimate with someone in their relationship with them. I was sharing my personal preferences and why I wanted to be that way, and now I can't. They don't want to be around me. They don't want to eat meals with me. They don't want, so they're. I've realized that I'm not ready for a relationship. I'm still growing as a person spiritually. I'm coming out of a lot of personal problems because of my wife passing away, and leaving my job that I had. Well, I left my job, my wife passed away, and I'm here by myself, taking care of my own things. But it would be nice if more people would recognize that, animals that are raised for food or captured, that for me, I believe those animals have a person. There's like a person there. So if that was me, and if I was an animal that was a farm animal, if I was a cow or I was a pig or I was like a chicken or a turkey or any other kind of animal, that I wouldn't want to have to go through what I see them go through. It seems like that would be kind of a purgatory or a hell experience to have to go through as a creature, as a form of consciousness. Now, it could be that some people would say, well, I have a mental illness because I think animals have consciousness, which is another argument. And yeah, I don't have very many friends because most people, they eat meat, fish, hunt, they accept that as their normal way of life. So it's kind of like I'm like a anathema, so I am not a very pleasant person to be with. That if I even hint that, hey, you know what, maybe vegan diet or plant-based diet might be, maybe you'll get healthier, right? If you eat more plants, you might have lower cholesterol. You might feel better. You might lose weight easier. So there's a lot to be said about just the health reasons for eating plant-based diet. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's taken me from the time in my life where I've decided that I want to live the diet that I live, this diet that I've chosen. It's taken me many years, and getting used to getting used to eating a certain way, and a habit of certain foods, a preference for certain foods. It's not something, I can't say this enough times, it's not something that somebody that's normally regularly a meat eater or drink milk and cheese and dairy and eggs and that they can just change their lifestyle overnight and just live and make that change to their diet. For me, it took me years and years and years. I went from not wanting to eat animals on a regular basis to where I was like, I'd still like go fishing. I was still eating cheese and drinking milk and eating eggs and that for a long time, and then gradually tapering off of that as a choice, right? I made a personal choice. I don't, so I guess if you're saying like I'm trying to make somebody feel guilty, that they should change, because I'm telling them to, that's kind of dumb. I mean, I've tried to explain why I'm the way I am. I see animals suffer in the world, and to me that's an ethical, and not using animal products. It's a choice I made, at an ethical choice as well as a dietary choice too. And as far as like, carbon footprint, you can't help. We live in modern society. Unless you're a monk and you live in a monastery, or you're in a commune, or you go and live in an intentional community where everybody shares the same car, and they live a really really austere lifestyle where they have a very small carbon footprint. That's hard to do unless you live around all these other people doing the same thing. It's easy to do that. Otherwise, you got to have a car. Unless you live downtown and there was a lot of public transportation, it's easier to get around. But if you live in a rural area, you got to have a vehicle to get to town and back, and that, unless you share a car with other people. So yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe you can make a response video to me and let me know what it is. Is that it sounded like you're upset in the comment. It sounds like that I did something or said something that maybe was in one of my videos, or you said you know me, so I don't have a leather wallet. I used to have a leather wallet, and yeah, I don't know who other vegans that you've met, because it's like there's very few people that I know of that are vegan. All the people that I meet are vegan are online, and they don't live nearby me. They're not in. I don't know vegans in the real world, in real life. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You could say, well, if you're an empathetic person and you have empathy towards other animals, then, I mean, farm animals, you see what they go through to get to your plate. So, I mean, yeah, and lifestyle, yeah, it's a lifestyle. The carbon footprint thing, that's a whole other thing entirely, another issue. Yeah, and I have cars that get really good gas mileage, these little 3-cylinder Geo Metro, and I don't drive all the time. I only drive when I need to drive. Yeah, so, and I don't drive very far, and I keep my driving close by. Yeah, and the cats got flea infested. That was something that, I regret not taking them to the vet sooner. to get them taken care of. I'm really suffering because of that, because I miss them. They were my babies. Anyhow, I'm just going to end it here. Yeah, make a video and or leave a video, or leave another comment. So on this video. Talk at you later. Bye.